Welcome to USA Biz Party, the chat after the chat, the party after the party. I am so thankful that you are here joining me today. Today on USA Biz Party, we talked about, well, this entire month is all about branding. It's all about branding, all the different aspects. And up until this point, we've actually been talking mostly about personal branding, but today we stretched it out into a little bit more than that. Not a little bit. Wow, it was an amazing chat. It was quite busy. But we had with us a logo expert, Meg O'Gara. Did I say that right, Meg?
You did. You sure did.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So Meg is obviously creative. Her website is Magnificent Creative, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Love that pun. Love that pun. Well, Meg she's actually out of Donegal, Ireland. I learned how to say that a few years back. So she's out of Donegal. She's a creative design author, trainer, automation solution person to make your business run better. And Meg, I have to tell you, I didn't realize how much is involved with logos. When you think of a logo, you think of, well, this is just what I put on my email or I put on my ads, but it is so much more. Maybe talk a little bit about some of the elements, not all of them, because it just boggled my mind when we were talking about it. I thought, wow, I didn't realize that logos were so there were so many pieces to logos. So maybe talk a little bit about some of the important elements that people need to be considering when they're thinking about a logo or possibly redesign or rebranding.
Sure. Yeah. So do you know what? It's so funny because oftentimes people decide they're starting up a business and they get so excited about this whole business launch and creation of their new enterprise that the logo for some can seem like an afterthought or something that's maybe inconsequential. And only then when you start to give it some real thought do you realize, or hopefully you realize, that this is like a huge piece of a business asset that's really going to see you through from day one, hopefully for many, many years in your business. And it's something that, like, I see it quite often that people say, I just want a quick logo. I just need something to get up and running, get started. And then they don't really think about all of the different use cases that this logo is going to be needed on. So like, I guess people are a little bit more aware of it now that people are maybe posting things on Instagram and they want to put their logo, say, over a picture so they can brand that picture. So I get a lot of people saying, why my logo? But I need to be able to put it on a photo so I can brand a photo. So a lot of people know, right, we need two versions of it, maybe a white version and a colored version or something. But there is really, like, when we dived into it there over in the Twitter chat, there is so much more that we need to kind of tick off our list to make sure that we're future-proofing our business, and all of these different design aspects that we need to really make our brand stand out and to make it something that's really functional for our business and our brand going forward.
Yeah, I was, as we were going through the chat, of course, now, when you go through the chat, I have to warn you that one question, Meg probably had 7 tweets per answer, but it's because it's such an extensive and a bigger picture than just, give me a quick little branding thing.
I know, right? One of your questions was like in 7 words. I'm like, what?
Oh, yes. Well, that's a throwback to the days of 140 characters. We have joining us today on Twitter, we have Alex with Colfax Insurance. Alex, thank you for joining us. We're so glad that you are with us today. And, Alex, please share any questions. And anybody who's joining us, whether you are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, watching the replay or with us live, we will bring your questions up, any question you have about logos, and I'm sure Meg would be happy to answer them.
For sure. Now, and I'll be concise as possible.
Yes. Well, it was a very informative chat, I must say, because when when Esther and I put together the agenda for a month, we always try to think of in themes. And so, of course, logos are super important to branding, and thought really needs to go into it. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about colors. Sue from the UK, Catch Designs, she's going to be talking to us about colors. But what kind of elements do people really need to be thinking about as they're developing a logo? What are the kinds of things you encourage people to look at when they're getting ready to build a logo?
So I remember one of my first logo projects was with, I was really lucky because I started my business and started with companies in America before I ever started with companies in Ireland. I kind of did things backwards. But I remember one of my first clients, it was a company where there was lots of skyscrapers in their city. And for me, if anyone was over on the Twitter chat, you saw in my intro, my introduction with a picture of where I am. And it's the polar opposite to skyscrapers, right? It's all just mountains and cliffs. So this gentleman said to me, honey, I want to be able to go to the top of my skyscraper. And if somebody had spray painted my logo onto the sidewalk, we don't even call them that here, we call them footpaths. So I was like, oh, okay. So he wanted to say, if they spray painted it onto the sidewalk, he wanted to be able to look from the roof down and get it. He wanted somebody to get what his business was about. And I guess when he said that to me, I thought, wow, yeah, that is exactly where we all need to start from when we're starting our logo creation journey. We need something that's really, really clear, something that would translate well, not just in color, but also if we had a really pared back palette. Like if somebody spray painted something, it's likely going to be all one shade, right? So that message still gets conveyed. And for me, when I'm designing logos, sometimes there could be a variation of loads of different concepts that I'm working on. And sometimes it really helps to kind of step back, to roll back the chair to the other side of the room and look and go, is that clear? I don't have a skyscraper I can climb, so this is my equivalent. Is it clear? Can I see it? Does that get the message across? And sometimes that's when you see the changes that need to happen. So when you're starting out your logo design journey and the concept of what you think, is going to be really a good reflection of your business, it's really important to keep things, I think, simple.
I agree, because when it becomes complicated, we look at simple. You showed us a couple of super, very recognizable logos, and they are very simple. I mean, if I said golden arches, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is there have been some variations to the golden arches across the years, but always and forever, it's always been the same. I mean, since I was a child, and Meg, dinosaurs roamed the earth when I was a child, right? Well, I mean, I'm older than I look. That's what people tell me anyway, or I'm younger than I am. I don't know, whatever. But then we look at Chanel, Coco Chanel. Her brand is very clear, very simple, but it has the potential for being creating a lot of variations that still tie into the main idea. So I really, truly believe that simple is important. Clear is important. And that's why you have to be clear about who you're reaching out to. I mean, all the elements of marketing, all the elements of sales need to come together as you're contemplating what your logo is all about. And logos can change with time and yet still have the same theme, if you will.
Exactly, yeah. And like you just said with the golden arches, so this can develop, it's something that can grow with your business, but you might still hold on to those fundamentals that have got you to the point that you're at now.
Right, exactly. Now we have a question from Alex. Alex is, she's one of our regulars in the chat, and she says, what are your tips for a full rebrand, like new name, logo, the works?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I love working on rebrand projects. They're so exciting because, you've got somebody that's really, really excited to refresh their business. And you've seen the progress that maybe your first suite of branded assets have got you to this point, and you're ready to kind of take things on and move forward. So when you're looking at a rebrand, when I'm working with anyone, I really like to dive into really looking at exactly who their audience is and who they're speaking to, because sometimes once you've got established in your business, sometimes the people that you set out to serve changes a bit as you grow and your business maybe changes. And so what was working for you at one stage perhaps mightn't be working as well as it was then. And this is why now you're in the position of looking for a rebrand. So if that's the case and you have a new audience, or your audience has maybe gotten older, or there's some changes there, I like to look and see who we're talking to. Are we still talking to the same people? And what is kind of the visuals and things that particular audience responds to, what resonates with them, so that we can create something that's really memorable and striking, that will, you know, connect you and your services or your business with your ideal customers. Yeah, so, and if you're going to rebrand, then, you know, everything's on the table. You know, you're looking at maybe updating or refreshing taglines and things. So it's always fun to do some like research and some deep dives into that, to see where the possibilities are.
And it takes time. I mean, you know, one of the things that comes across, I think that was mentioned in the chat a couple of times, and you even addressed it, is that a lot of times we just want something that we can work with very fast, and not, you know, we're not as concerned about all of these extra, well, they're not even extra important aspects of branding.
You know what? I think we're in such an instant society. Like, we are in a society now where everything happens almost yesterday. Like, we want a glass of water, and it's like straight there from the fridge. We have like a cool machine to get that. Whereas before, you know, years ago, our like ancestors would have had to traipse out to a well or something. We want, you know, a cup of tea. The kettle has, you know, like, I know in my house, we don't even have to go to the kettle. We have a boiling water tap. That's, you know, everything is instant. And I see this with our logo design, and people looking for packages or, you know, things to get their business started. It's they want things like super fast, on a budget, on a shoestring, and there's no real awareness in a lot of people that all of these are seen as extras, like the brand guidelines that we were speaking about over the Twitter chat, or submarks or different variations of your logo. So say, for example, maybe you have your logo in a vertical and a horizontal aspect, or a transparent version that you can use in other situations. And sometimes these aren't valued because you don't know that you need them yet. And it's only then when the business has started that they go, oh, would have been really handy if we had that, or if we had the brand guideline document to keep all of our assets and all of our social media channels consistent.
Well, and it boils down to consistency. It has to be consistent with your message. It has to be consistent with the image that you are wanting to portray to your ideal customers, because it's also a focus of attraction in the business. Now, before we move on to another question, I just want to encourage any of you who are watching. So if you're watching this on TV, we're so thankful that you are with us today watching. If you are watching on social media, would you do me a favor, please? First of all, follow me and USA Biz Party if you are on Twitter. That's a great place, because then you will see in your feed when we're having these amazing Twitter chats. And also, please like and share the broadcast, whether you're on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. Let people know what we're talking about. This is such an important business topic. And I'm going to confess to you, Meg, I didn't realize the scope of it when we first approached you a few weeks back about being our guest co-host and talking about this, but I thought it was extremely fascinating. But let's talk a little bit about the brand guidelines, because again, I think a lot of us don't really think about how we need to have sort of some parameters that we're going to use our branding inside in order for the message to be consistent.
Right. Yeah, sure. So like recently I had a lady come to me, and she had a logo designed a couple of years ago elsewhere. And she came to me because she has spent the intervening couple of years muddling through, trying to be consistent on her social media, trying to be consistent on her printed, flyers and graphics that she had done. And I guess this really highlighted to me the struggle that people face when they don't have a clear document, a clear guidelines. Like your brand guidelines are essentially a little rule book for you to follow. And it's by no means a rule book that would stifle your creativity. In actual fact, it enhances your opportunity to grow your business and to shine in all of the aspects, all of the places that you're going to show up for your, customers and your potential customers. If you are consistent, then that's going to build trust, right? Your people that you're speaking to, your audience, are going to instantly recognize you. But if you're not being consistent, then that makes that recognition so much harder, which then would be a barrier or an obstacle to getting more sales, to scaling your business, and to just growing and really, having the best business that you could possibly have. So the benefits of your brand guidelines is like one book, a one resource where all of that information that you need to stay consistent is held. And it's not just for you. So a lot of people, when you're starting out or when you're rebranding, you don't often think of, other projects that might happen in the future, other people that you might collaborate with, or other things where your logo file might be appearing. So this is where your brand guidelines resource book or your document comes in handy, because if you are hiring a freelancer, for example, or you're working with a copywriter, or you're working with a video editor. So a lot of people say now are putting video footage on their websites, and they're getting these videos made by video editors and they're getting their logos put on. But then they realize that things aren't consistent there because the video editor wasn't given the guidelines because you didn't have the guidelines, or because you didn't know to give them the guidelines. And so this then dilutes your brand online. It dilutes the effectiveness of the branding that you had originally invested in when you created your logo, because you're not showing up consistently.
Wow, that, it's so interesting how this has so tied into so much of what we've been talking about, even with the personal branding, because consistency and getting the message across in a consistent way is so, so, so important. And I love how you put it about the guidelines, because we think of guidelines as constraints, as, oh my gosh, now I have rules to follow. And it's not about rules to follow. It's about consistency, and it's about bringing everything together so that you are recognizable, so that when people say, for example, USA Biz Party, maybe they just think of the logo, maybe they think of me, but everything starts to move together in a flow all together. And that's
exactly. It's a bit like if you imagine a jigsaw puzzle, and all of these pieces are pieces of that jigsaw puzzle. So individually, if you pick up a piece, it's not really going to make much sense. But when you start to put the puzzle together, then you see this beautiful, consistent picture.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the chat. I want to give a shout out to John Buglino. John is a very consistent, regular member of our chat. He works for Optessa, and he's been very instrumental in helping that company with their branding and growth. And so, John, thank you for joining. We know you couldn't make it during the chat, but thank you for being here today with us. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the variations, because the variations are important for branding, for your logo, because it's not a one size fits all, is it?
Absolutely not. And really there are no real rules. So what fits one business and what one business might have as their logo, logo type or logo style, another business, it mightn't be an option for them.
Right. It is. It's very consistent with, it has to fit your message, but it also has to fit your business model. So this isn't something that's, it's not something that it's a burden to create. It's something, I think it's fun. When my daughter did her rebrand this last year, we all had, so we're part of a team, and we all had a lot of fun talking about how the different elements could come together for the rebrand. And it was a lot of fun. There were times I think she was a little frustrated because, she knew what she wanted, but she just didn't feel like she was getting it expressed through the brand or expressed through the logo. How can people who are working through this process, what can they do to help themselves get more clarity for their logo and their branding?
And I think you hit on it there when you said sometimes she felt it really hard to get, feel like she was getting her message across. And that's a struggle that a lot of people coming up against, particularly when you're trying to convey your concept or a really loose idea that you've got to somebody else who you want to go and design it, right? That can be such a challenge, because if you're not 100% sure, sometimes people know exactly what they want, and it's a really prescriptive process where they go to a designer and say, this is my vision, can you just make this? Whereas other times people go, I want to rebrand, and I'm open to concepts and suggestions, or I don't really know what I want. And this is where it's so important to find a designer that's really invested in being on the journey with you, someone that is excited about you and your business, and either branding your business or rebranding your business. And often when you find somebody that's on that journey with you, they will be excited to share things like questionnaires, or to really understand what you're trying to achieve, who your audience is, and get down to the nitty-gritty of your business, so that they can create the best thing that represents your business and resonates with your audience.
Oh, I love it. I love, love, love it. I love the whole idea of being on the journey with the entrepreneur or the business owner, or if it's a large business, a small business. I love that whole idea of, it's almost like partnering with them.
Absolutely. I sometimes people see this whole kind of process of, I just need a logo, just give me a logo. And, it seems like a really abstract thing. But for me anyway, in my business, I feel like I'm invested in it. I want to do the best logo that I could possibly do for you and your business, because I want to see you succeed. I want to see, this logo carry you through years and years and years of really successful business.
Oh, I love that. I can see the passion that you have for helping business owners. One last question, Meg. I think this is probably one of the most important, particularly for small business owners and entrepreneurs who are on Twitter or watching us on YouTube, or maybe even on our TV channel. The question is, if I'm getting started in business, what would you say are my top 3 things that I need to be aware of and consider as I am looking for someone to help me build a logo and my brand colors?
So what you need to do is, do your research, speak to different designers. You don't have to hire the first designer that you speak to. There's a lot of amazing businesses out there that have got really cheap logos done, with freelancers overseas and things like that. And that has served them to a point. And then sometimes there's a struggle. So I would say invest in your brand, invest in your logo. Don't just necessarily go for the quick solution through, third-party freelance websites, because often you'll hit a wall at some point, and then, you have no comeback. You have no kind of, often you won't get brand guidelines. You won't get the aftercare or the support of somebody that's been on a journey with you. You're getting literally just a digital file that's created and sent to you. The other downside of that is, as we discussed over in the Twitter chat, so we all know now, if you were in Twitter chat, that you don't actually own your logo. So if you are getting your logo designed by kind of what in my mind, I imagine is kind of like a logo creating machine, where people are churning out logo after logo, and they're not maybe giving you all of the types of files that you're going to need to future-proof your logo for your business, or you're not getting the supporting documentation or the guidelines to see you through the consistency part of your business to help you kind of grow your brand and be consistent everywhere that you're showing up for your audience. when you then discover that maybe somebody else online has either the same or very similar logo as you, there's really no comeback. And so the struggle then that you face is you have invested your time and your energy into building a brand and showing up digitally and showing up in all the other places where you want to speak to your audience. And then you see that maybe there's another brand in the similar niche with something either the same or very similar to yourself that's also then diluting your message. And so you can be as consistent as you want, but if someone's giving a different message with almost the same branding, that's very confusing for your audience. So when you're starting out in your journey, I would always suggest do your homework, find someone that, you know, is invested in a journey with you, wants to create something that's going to see you through and isn't like simply going to just give you a logo and kind of say, well, there you go. So if you have an issue down the line and you say, well, you know, I need to change this, or, you know, I'm doing something now and I want to just tweak the colors so I can do something else with it, that they're able to do that. And they, you know, they've designed the files so they know how to work the files that you've got. And it's, you know, it's a relationship. It's not just someone that you're just gonna hire and say goodbye to, because you might never work with them again, but you still have the door open to come back and, you know, touch base if you want to. Like, I have one lady who's had a logo for years and years, and then at Christmas time she decided she wanted to put like a little Christmas hat on because everyone was so sad with like COVID, and she wanted to Christmas up her logo just for the festive season, and she felt that she could do that, but we wouldn't work together on other projects. But, you know, because we've had this relationship now, it was a really quick thing to do for her.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And, you know, now that people have been listening, they're probably going, well, how can I get in touch with you? How can I maybe get a consult, or however you work with potential clients? So how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So my website is Magnificent Creative, which not magnificent. So it's magnificent because I'm Meg and I love a good pun. So anyone can pop over there and fill in the contact box, or you'll find me on Twitter as Meg Creative, or LinkedIn as Meg O'Gara. So that's me.
Thank you again, Meg, for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing. That was so informative. If you want more of the technical stuff that we talked about, please go back into the Twitter chat. You can go into, you know, where the little eyeglass, or not eyeglasses, spyglass is. You put in hashtag USA Biz Party, and you can follow the entire chat. Find out. We should be putting up a moment here, not in the too very far future, and you can catch like the very highlights of the chat. But I would really encourage you. There was a lot of technical stuff that Meg shared that was just mind-blowing, and there was great conversation between the participants and Meg. I would really encourage you to go over to the chat, take a look, and then also, if you have any questions, well, Meg is very available and she's more than happy to answer your questions. Thanks again, Meg, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed joining you for a big chat about logos.
Thank you.